Hello, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another edition of what I've been watching while I've been unwell. So I had a period of time earlier this year when I was a bit unwell, and after that I put out a video of all the stuff I'd been watching on TV and Netflix and YouTube during my feeling sorry for myselfness. Other people call it a convalescence. I call it just feeling like poop, basically. And you guys quite enjoyed it. I got some quite good feedback on that, and also what I got on that as well was some ideas of things that I also might like to watch, so that was really nice for me. Now obviously I didn't expect to be making one of these quite so quickly, because I don't watch an awful lot of telly in the general scheme of things. I don't watch any live telly at all. We don't even have access to ordinary live telly downstairs anymore. That's all gone. So I tend to watch a lot of Netflix if I watch anything at all, and mostly YouTube. Dogs obviously have decided to have a wrestling match just off camera as soon as I decided to record. Molly, shush love, shush. When I'm in good health, I don't watch hardly anything at all, really. So then when I'm poorly, I think I catch up on a lot of stuff that I might have otherwise have missed, and I cram all my viewing into a small space of time. Which is why, having been ill for a solid fortnight, I was very, very unwell for a fortnight, I caught up on a lot of what other people may have been watching for a long time now. And I've got a little list to share with you again. So I'm going to start off with the series that I have watched on Netflix. One of the good things about not watching a lot of ordinary telly is that when I do get round to something, there's a lot of it to catch up on. So for example, when I finally got around to watching Bridgerton, which was 3 years after everybody else, there was loads of it to watch. So I was able to completely binge watch it all. That has happened this time with Brassic. I don't know if you guys have watched Brassic. I don't know whether it be your kind of thing. It may be a level of humour that only really British people would relate to. So it may be something that if you're not from around here, you might not get it. You might not find it funny at all, really. But for example, we had a series called Shameless here that was very, very popular, and that was taken over to the US and they remade that and they made a US version. I've never seen a US version, but so what I'm saying is some of it does translate to other countries and other things, but some of it may just be quintessentially working class British humour, which goes over the heads of some other people, or doesn't, or just simply isn't funny to some other people. So Brassic, I would say, is specifically it's working class British humour, and if like me you are council estate scum, then you will absolutely be on board with Brassic and what it's about. So it follows the life and career of Vinnie O'Neill, who is a small-time car thief and weed grower. There's so much compassion and caring in this story you wouldn't believe. From the way I just encapsulated it, he's a small-time thief and weed grower, you'd go, well, where's the compassion in that friendship group? Series 1, there was really a core group of about 5 main characters, and that expanded out through the series. They've just finished streaming series 6, so that gives you some idea of where they are. I think it began in 2019. It's been hugely popular. It's really, really taken off. But the care and compassion in that friendship group, and what is very rare is that they are all very lovable characters in their own way. Usually when you find an ensemble cast of people that you just can't stand, and they're all such solid, lovable characters, and the bond between them. The basic premise of the show is as long as you've got your mates, you'll be all right. So Vinnie O'Neill has bipolar. He's played by Joseph Gilgun, who he was in Emmerdale for many years as Eli Dingle, and he was then in This Is England, I think it was in. I've never seen that. He's great. He's absolutely fantastic. But the character of Vinny is based very much on his own life and his own personality and his own friendship groups. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's absolutely fantastic. And I absolutely loved it, to the point where I did that thing where you watch something and then you spend 2 weeks saying to everybody else, if you watch so and so, yeah, go watch that. You should watch that. You'll love that. I've been banging on at the family to watch it, and they don't seem interested. Please be quiet. So that's Brassic. Something else I am watching on Netflix, another series, is the Durrells. Now, I have seen the Durrells before. So I watched the Durrells. I may even have mentioned it in vlogs in the past, or maybe it was the books that I mentioned. The Durrells was a BBC adaptation of loosely based on My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell. And it is the story of how the Durrells moved to Corfu in the mid to late 1930s, in search for a new life. And they were quite a bonkers family, but it's based on real characters with a little bit of literary wobble thrown in, I suppose, you know. And thoroughly enjoyed it. I like anything that's kind of set in that era. The between the wars era is, you know, they say you have a time when you feel like you should have been born. I feel like that's my era. I should have been born in between the wars. That's my era. Anything, Poirot, anything like that. Anything set in those times. Jeeves and Wooster, all of that kind of thing. And although the Durrells is absolutely nothing like Jeeves and Wooster, it is set in that time period. I don't want to give too much away. This is one of the issues with doing this, is that I want to encourage you to watch things, but I don't want to give too much away. Something else I am watching on Netflix is Friday Night Dinner. Now, I have seen many, many episodes of Friday Night Dinner, but I've never watched them all consecutively from start to finish. So I'm currently on about series 3 at the moment. The good thing about them is they're not very long. They're only about 20 to 25 minutes long each. And there are plenty of very, very much laugh out loud moments. The star of Friday Night Dinner is definitely one of the side characters. The side character, not a main character, is Jim. I suppose he is a main character in a way now, but Jim is the neighbour who turns up every Friday night, and whilst the main characters are having their Friday night there with a Jewish family, and they have the traditional Friday night family dinner. And almost every Friday night when they're having this dinner, there's chaos ensues, and Jim turns up, and Jim's an absolute loon. And again, I don't want to give too much away, but definitely, if you've not watched Friday Night Dinner, it is really, really funny. There are 2 things that I'm watching on Netflix that I haven't managed to get into properly. I've tried and I just can't get there. I mentioned last time Good Omens, which is Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, and I've never managed to get into it. It's got David Tennant in it. I don't know why I can't get into it, but I can't. I keep trying and I cannot get there. And something else that's happened this time is Chaos. Chaos stars Jeff Goldblum, and it is a modern day retelling of Greek mythology, and there's nothing wrong with it except for the fact that I can't get in. I don't like most of the characters, and I think that's the difference. When I said with Brassic I like all of the characters, with Chaos I didn't find any of them particularly likeable, even the ones you were supposed to like. So I'm really struggling. I might give it another go, but I'm not doing very well with that. Let me know if you've watched Chaos, and if so, what you thought of it. And the other thing that I'm tried to watch and not doing well at is Unfrosted. Now, that is a film on Netflix. It's a made-for-Netflix film. It's got Melissa McCarthy in it and Hugh Grant. I mean, those should be 2 solid reasons why I've enjoyed it, and I cannot get into it. I've tried a couple of times, cannot get into it. Let me know if you've watched that, and if you thought it was good, or maybe it's just not good. Maybe not all films are good, are they? And speaking of not all films are good, also on Netflix, I watched Hot Frosty. It is a made-for-Netflix, made-for-Christmas, predictable, tripey film. And because I was ill, I was just like, oh, well, I'll watch a Christmas film. I watched several Christmas films, actually. I watched Hot Frosty, which is the story of a snowman who comes to life. It's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible film. It's just a slushy romantic Christmas film, but I want him to melt. I disliked the film so much that if he'd melted into a puddle and she'd been left alone, I'd have been okay with it. Spoilers, he doesn't. I also watched Falling for Christmas, which has Lindsay Lohan in it. Now, Lindsay Lohan, as you may know, has had a somewhat up and down career due to issues in her personal life and the choices she's made, and this was billed as her comeback. Apparently it's 95th on the list of best Christmas films ever. I can only assume that there are only 96 Christmas films in existence, because it's terrible. Very, very bad film. Essentially, it is a remake of Overboard without any of the good stuff. So if you remember Overboard was Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, and the premise was that a rich heiress who had a terrible attitude got a bonk on the head, forgot who she was, and the working class tradesman that she had been unpleasant to got his own back by making her look after him and his kids because she couldn't remember who she was. And Falling for Christmas is a remake of that, only she's a rich heiress who gets a bonk on her head at a skiing resort, and the tradesman who she was rude to, she wasn't that rude to, and he doesn't even remember who she is. That's the bit that's really unbelievable. He doesn't remember her. He takes her into his home and says, I'll look after you while you get your memory back, and she looks after his kid and all that. Why doesn't he remember who she is? He had met her. I can understand her having the bonk on the head, but he didn't get one. It was a terrible, terrible film. I also watched Meet Me Next Christmas, which had a completely unknown cast to me. I didn't know any of their names now. I didn't know it then. This was one of the ones that I watched very late one night when I couldn't sleep. I'd been up and down all night and I was unwell, and I just put it on in the middle of the night. It was okay. It wasn't the worst film I've ever seen. It was a bit trite, but it had a bit of a twist at the end that you weren't necessarily expecting. And it had an a cappella group in it who are apparently very, very famous, whose name I've also forgotten. This is ridiculous. Echo. What's the name of the American a cappella group that's very famous?
One of the most well-known vocal groups of all time. Pentatonics is an American a cappella.
Thank you. Pentatonics. Pentatonics, which apparently are one of the most well-known a cappella groups of all time. Pentatonics. So they're a kind of a feature of this particular film, and these two people bump into each other in an airport lounge, and neither of them is single at the time, but they feel this instant spark, and they say that if by any chance they're both single next year, they'll meet up at the Pentatonics Christmas concert. And so you go through the year, and then she's single. She decides she's going to meet up with him at this concert. She can't get a ticket, but she goes through hell and high water to get a ticket. And that's all I'm going to tell you because I don't want to spoil the ending. But it was all right. That wasn't the worst film I've ever seen. Something I watched which I did enjoy, but I knew I would enjoy it before I started, is Hugh Grant again, but it's Sense and Sensibility. Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet, who plays to my mind, the least likeable character that Jane Austen ever wrote. Marianne. Marianne in Sense and Sensibility. Eleanor's sister Marianne. She's just such a tit. She's just such an idiot. She's so wrapped up in herself and how she feels about stuff. And if you don't know the story of Sense and Sensibility, essentially Eleanor and Marianne, their father dies, their mother is widowed, they have no money to support the estate is entailed upon his son from his first marriage. He starts off as a well-meaning guy, but he has a terrible, terrible wife who talks him out of doing anything nice for his half-sisters and his stepmother. And so they end up going off to live somewhere else, and Eleanor has a broken heart because she's in love with the horrible wife's brother, and Marianne has a broken heart all over the damn place because she's an idiot, essentially, and Greg Wise is mean to her. Greg Wise, who was married to Emma Thompson at the time. No, he wasn't married to Emma Thompson at the time. They met on the set of Sense and Sensibility, and then they got married. I don't know. Let me know if you are an Austen fan, and if you, I mean, I've seen it before many times, but I thought it was about time I watched it again. Let me know if you think Marianne is an absolute knob. Just, was she supposed? Did Austen write her that way, or is it just the way I take her? Because I'm like, oh, you are an idiot. You are an absolute muppet. Eleanor, on the other hand, is lovely, of course. The heroine always is. So if you haven't watched Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson in it, go and find that on Netflix. Highly recommend that one. Something that we went to see at the cinema, which I don't know why I'm including this, because I don't know. This is what I've been watching. I suppose I was watching it, but I was better. By the time I went to see it, I didn't go while I was ill to the cinema, because that would be terrible. We went to see Wicked. And that was a very, very good film. Wicked is the film adaptation of the stage play that's been running for about 25 years, I think now. And it is the story of how the Wicked Witch of the West became that way. How she got the reputation of being the Wicked Witch of the West and what happened. It's her life story. And again, I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but it's a very, very good adaptation. It's got Ariana Grande and Cynthia Thingamy, whose name I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen because that'll come back to me. Ariana Grande plays Glinda, the Good Witch of the West, and Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the... Glinda, the Good Witch of the East? Glinda, the Good Witch of the East, I think. And Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, is played by Cynthia Thingamy. I'm not doing very well at this, am I? This is what I've been rambling about rather than what I've been watching. So yeah, if you get a chance to go to the cinema and see that, then by all means do. But it's a two-parter, and the second part is not out until next year. And then finally, here are a few channels I have been enjoying on YouTube. So one thing I watched yesterday, which I can't remember the name of the channel, but I'll be linking it below anyway, was a film that was made in the mid-70s. It was made in 1976, and it's called Scarborough Bank Holiday. And it is literally a short film made in Scarborough on the August Bank Holiday in 1976. And it was just such a lovely blast from the past. It was, I mean, I was 3 in 1976. So I suppose the bit that I would remember would probably actually be a couple of years later on, wouldn't it? My actual memories of childhood. Probably not when I was 3, although I do remember going to Mablethorpe when I was 3, and I have vague memories of that. Vague, very vague memories. But yeah, so I've never been to Scarborough. So when I say it brings back memories, it didn't bring back specific memories of Scarborough, just brought back memories of the 70s and how we were, how people were, how they looked, how we behaved, how, yeah, it's a lovely blast from the past. And I'll link that below for you because you might want to see that. And then 3 ordinary channels that I've been watching. I've been watching Live It Like Lauren for a long time now. So at one point she was called Lose It Like Lauren. She lost an enormous amount of weight. And then at some point she is no longer a weight loss channel and she's not quite as slim as she was anymore, but she's more of a vlogging channel now. And I find her channel very interesting. It's quite a lot of talking to camera, but she does some lovely camera work as well. Quite a lot of just chatting in the car and stuff like that. I really like it. I think we have quite a few viewers in common because I see names that are familiar from my comment section popping up in hers. Next one, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be pronouncing this correctly, Kyun B. That it's not an English name, and I don't know if I'm horribly mispronouncing it, but it is basically life in Siberia. That's so interesting. If you said to me, are you interested in life in Siberia? I'd say to you, I've never given it any thought. But I've been watching this channel which just focuses on daily life in Siberia and what people have to do simply to exist. It makes you realise what a pampered existence we lead in countries like the UK or the US or whatever. We're pampered simply from the point of watching the process somebody has to go through to clean their teeth in Siberia, you know, which is something we don't think anything about. We just go and we clean our teeth and the job is done. Or how they do laundry, or, you know, everything, every aspect of life in that inhospitable terrain. And those the temperature's like minus 40 degrees. I get bloody freezing if we go if we go into -2 here, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And these people are just living their lives in -40. They're doing their laundry and hanging it out to dry in -40 temperatures. It doesn't dry, it freezes solid, but apparently all the water freezes out of it because it's so cold. Who knew? I didn't know that. I probably learned it in science and didn't listen. But yeah, really interesting channel, and I will link that one below as well. And then another one that I've been really, really loving is Tia Weston. She's much bigger channel than me. She's got 110k subscribers, something like that. And she's been around for about 7 years, but her older stuff I haven't watched. It was van life. She was living in a van and stuff like that, and it wasn't really my cup of tea. But about 3 months ago, she bought a $1 house from someone she knew. She lives in, I want to say, Ohio, and now I'm not sure it's correct. I'm not sure it is Ohio. I'm sorry, Tia, if you don't live in Ohio, because I'm not sure that I'm not arguing with myself now. But yeah, so she's bought this $1 house from a family friend. I'm not quite sure of the story behind that part. And the series that she's doing now is literally on her remodelling and renovating her $1 house. And I really love the way she presents her channel. I love the skills the woman has. This is a young woman. I would say must be in her early 20s. I mean, either she just looks really young, but the skills that this woman has when it comes to renovating and rebuilding a house. She's ripped this house apart and she's pretty much done all the work herself. She's had her dad there to help a bit, but she's put a new roof on and she's ripped out all the drywall and she's re-drywall and she's redone all the front. And I'm just like, if I put a picture on the wall, I think I've done a day's work, you know? So I will link that below as well in case that is the kind of thing you are interested in. That's going to be the end of this what I've been watching recently. So that's kind of mostly what I watched for the last 2 weeks when I was really, really unwell. And check out some of them. Like I said, I'll put the links in below for you. Check out some of them as I mentioned, and let me know if you think there's anything that I might enjoy based on what you've heard me say, or sort of things that you've been watching yourself recently. And with all that said, thank you for joining me for this one, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.